Drew and Fuse Show, the Drew and Fuse Show. They clean up nicely. It's the Drew and Fuse Show, the Drew and Fuse Show, the Drew and Fuse Show. Yeah, they clean up nicely. Yeah.
Hello.
Yo, what's up? Daft Punk's in the building. How's it going, Fusemania?
It's great. It's Monday. Do you have a case of the Mondays?
I don't. I like Mondays. Monday's like the day off where I'm pretty stoked for it's just getting started. Fuck. I need like 10 cups of coffee on Monday.
So you got a semi case of the Mondays.
I got a semi usually most of the time.
So it's Monday. When this comes out, it'll be Wednesday. And what that means is you have 5 days left. 5 days left to buy your Daft Punk's merchandise. That's the links in our, the links in our bio on Instagram if you're looking to find it. It's on our little Solo 2 page. We have a limited run that we're offering of the ripoff logo of Daft Punk, which says Daft Punks.
Just add some S's.
We just F and S. So if you want that and you're a fan of the show, you got 5 days left. It's limited run. That's that. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah. How was your weekend? Good.
Oh man, the week was kind of crazy. I flew to Colorado for a gig with Fit Radio and Orange Theory. I flew out this past Tuesday, and I was there until Friday. They had a big Orange Theory fitness convention going on. Fit Radio is now in partnership with Orange Theory gyms everywhere. So if you're in an Orange Theory gym working out, you'll be listening to Fit Radio mixes in the gym. And I got flown out. I got to play the showroom floor for the convention. And then I got to do 3 different coaches workouts in the morning. So that was kind of, it was a lot because there was a lot of prep. And, this is the first time they did this with a live DJ. So I felt a lot of pressure to not suck.
Do you have all your drops? I mean, not live there, but like when people are at Orange Theory, do you have your drops throughout the mixes, or how does that work?
So now we put only one drop in the mix, and it's like usually right at the 30-minute, like right around the 30-minute mark. But like some of the old mixes that are still up on the app, like, there's like Fusemania drops like every 10 minutes, which is probably really annoying if you're one of the coaches.
So I was talking with you, and you were saying you're basically pretty famous there, right? All the coaches were like, "Oh my God, Fusemania!"
Yeah,
because you're one of the OG mixers, one of the main guys that helped start it off.
Right. I started working with Fit Radio in 2013. So what was crazy is this is the first time that I've met everybody in person for the company. So that all my communication with them has been over like Zoom like this or just on the phone. But it was great. I felt like it was great to finally meet everybody. But at the same time, I felt like I already knew them all so much already. So it was cool. And it was so weird. Like, so I'm DJing on the showroom floor, and like people kept walking by and they would see like my logo on the computer and they were like, "Oh my God, no way." And then like taking selfies. It was nuts.
That's wild. Famous. Yeah, it's famous.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool.
That's why I was wondering about the drops, because I'm sure they hear your name all the time. So it's pretty wild.
Yeah. It was fun. And it was cool to see, like we talk about all the time personally, how like sometimes it's nice to go to events and DJ these things because you see like how much the work you do behind the scenes thing sometimes actually matters. Like even with the podcast, when we show up to like these DJ shows or events, when we get to talk to people and people are like, "Oh, I loved this," or "I loved that." It's kind of nice to feel that, because some days, when you're just at home working, it kind of feels like a job or just overwhelming with everything else that you and I have going on.
Yeah. Sounds amazing. I also had a pretty cool week. Well, this is actually a little bit older. I opened up for James Kennedy from the Vanderpumps,
Oh
and
yeah, I forgot about that.
let me just tell you, that guy's so fucking famous. Like he walks in and girls are just screaming. He puts I'm playing songs and he just puts his hand up and everyone goes crazy. It he could just stand there. I didn't think he has to DJ. People would go crazy. But
Yeah, Ashley is such a big fan. I don't know how many episode or how many seasons are out of that show, but if I like meatloafed her like, "Hey mom, meatloaf," she would answer from like the back room. I think there's like 9 or 10 seasons though of that show, so it's pretty. I
I
mean,
I I didn't even know who the fuck he was. I'll be completely honest with you. No
right?
fucking clue.
I didn't know until she started watching it, and then I saw like he played somewhere in Cincinnati like a year ago, and I was like, "Oh, that's who that dude was." But
Oh.
big time.
Well, it was just interesting because it was all women, all girls, and they were just screaming at their top of lungs. I mean, it was so loud over like just the speakers. I don't even know they could hear what I was playing. It was just a surreal experience.
Sounds terrible.
So
Sounds like it was not fun.
no, it was interesting. It was actually making me laugh hysterically because I was like, oh, here I am playing. I'm like, no one even knows I'm here, and this guy's just raising his arms like, and everyone's freaking out. But he did go on and played, and he did his thing. So
I saw one of the videos you sent me. He was doing like the Fisher move, like
is that what it was? I don't know.
every time
Wasn't
I see
paying
videos
attention.
of Fisher DJing, he's like got that move going on.
Oh my gosh, it's funny. That's how little I pay attention. It goes to show.
Anything else? Did you do any
That's it.
this weekend? No? All right. Yeah. It was a pretty standard weekend for me as well back home in terms of
Yeah.
once I got back home, but we don't want to waste too much time. We've got a really good guest on the show today, and I'm just going to get right into it. He was a part of a couple of the most legendary crews in the DJ game, one being Deckstar and one being Screenworks. His remixes have been supported by the likes of Laid Back Luke, DJ Snake, Diplo, many, many more. He was all over the charts on Crooklyn Clan back in the day. He's still making a ton of edits and stuff now. He's appeared on the late night with Letterman and Kimmel. He's worked with clients such as Google, Virgin America, Nike, Vivo, and many, many more. He's got some legendary mixtapes and edits. He's also a resident at the Bungalow locations with Drew. Please help us welcome DJ Steve1der. What's up,
fellas?
What up?
How are you guys?
Good, man. Thanks for being on.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I'm always down to talk shop about DJ life.
Yeah, we're stoked. I mean, I've been a big fan of yours for a while. I was telling you, I made you send me this old mixtape of yours that I love, and all your mixtapes for that matter are always just been in my rotation. Very dope.
Thanks, man. Yeah, that was like 15 years old. That's the mixtapes just keep getting older,
Which one was
Yeah.
it, Drew, that you sent or that he sent you?
What was it called?
I think it was called In Control. It had a Serato CD cover.
Oh, that's
One
cool.
of the first
I remember
mixtapes
seeing
made
that.
on Serato. But yeah, I think it was 2008 or maybe even 7. But yeah, that was a good time, man. It was looking back, you don't know it, but that was very much a golden era. Like 2005, 2010 was a special time in DJing and pop culture and stuff. So I was glad to be a part of it then, like in the mix and stuff.
Well, yeah, if you were playing before, Serato just made you 10 times better, and all of the other people hadn't really just jumped on. You didn't have the James Kennedys yet. Just being able to have the computer, and all of a sudden you're a DJ. It's like it just helped you enhance you to another level during that era.
Yeah. It's funny when you mentioned that. I just thought to myself, is there any other job that an actor or a famous person can get paid well and do and just have the least amount of skill doing it? And I was like, other than like endorsement stuff, where they're just pitching a product, I'm like, why is it that DJing became that thing for them all to do?
Right.
And maybe he has skills, maybe, but like you said, like if you're that famous, you could just stand there and you're making women excited, and
I don't even think it matters. I was like
do a meet
thinking
and greet almost, like
he should hire just someone else to DJ and just stand there and throw shit at the crowd, and then do some dances and do the wavy things like Fuse was saying, and then and then maybe jump on and play a song or two, and then get back out there and stage dive.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just think you could do more with it.
it's
I don't know
just so
that he
funny.
actually has to DJ.
Yeah, the profession that we all chose is the one that anyone can just kind of like get in and out of real fast, and take
Yeah.
bookings, or it is what it is. But it's just funny
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah. Well,
Are-
he's not really stepping on our toes, so it's not a big
Yeah.
deal. He's in another class, so I don't get offended. I just, I'm with you. It's fun.
And it's been
great.
happening so long; it's par for the course. I mean, it's
Right.
the celebrity DJ thing has gone off, but I always credit it to to talk about the mid 2000s to the AM era, and him elevating the profile of the DJ, but also when he passed, kind of like, to me, he was a gatekeeper. So once the ceiling was gone and there was no gatekeeper, then anyone could kind of join. You know what I mean? It's like when anyone is like at the top of their field,
Right.
and that person leaves, and then it's fair game for anyone. But when there's someone who's at the top of their game, the club owners are saying, well, if you can't do that, we don't want you.
Right. Right.
Well,
And
it almost felt like when AM passed that, like, he had so much clout and say and control over like what happened in, like, not only just like big nightclubs, but kind of the DJ game, I feel like, in general. And then like when he passed, there was nobody that filled into that role with like the same amount of clout.
Yeah, I mean, that's why he was one of a kind, because no one could. I mean, we're all one of a kind in our own way, but yeah, like,
Right.
and I think if anyone expected someone to, then those were unrealistic expectations, because he doing commercials with Kobe and on Entourage,
Right.
the stuff he was doing was just so next level. But yeah, man, I think he his influence is still happening with all the celebrity stuff, and it goes hand in hand. You know what I mean? Like someone took it there, and it was him.
Yeah.
Right. Are you originally from the LA area, or are you?
Yeah, I'm born and raised in LA. Yep.
Okay. All right.
In that era, once you got on Deckstar and you were doing a lot of these travel shows too, or I don't know, maybe just tell some of the younger people that don't know a little bit about some of that time.
Yeah, so I was, I came up as an underground hip hop DJ, really, like that, through the 90s. And, I was very like, I met Spider around 2001, and we were DJing local bars in LA, like this place, Circle Bar, which just closed, but it was like classic dive bar in Santa Monica, Venice Beach. But I was anti, I never wanted to play Be Faithful. Like that song was way too commercial for me. Be Faithful had been out for like, I don't know, 6 years, and I refused to play it, but, slowly but surely you realize, if like you want to make some money, you kind of got to start playing some pop hits and commercial stuff. So eventually I loosened the grip on, I have to play this stuff. This is the music that's important, and realized I have to play more well-rounded across the board, and so this all coincides with the mashup craze, and you're hearing people mix rock records and 80s records and with new rap and all this stuff. And it just, at the time, it was so fresh. It's hard to explain, looking back at it now, it's par for the course, and funny enough that mashups have taken off on TikTok. It's like,
it's funny.
For me, it's vindicating that what we were doing, 15 plus years ago, just wasn't, it was underground culture then almost, like no one was hip to it. But
what's the what's this, the store that's in all the malls that
Journeys?
basically is using all of the thrift store era shit and like just rehashing
Hackson.
it.
We were just talking about yesterday.
Well, no, there's another one.
Oh.
Anyways, it just reminds me of, it's like they're taking the 90s and just like redoing it. It's kind of like, I feel like a lot of these DJs are taking all the old shit and like doing the same mashups. Like, you know, the Britney song was on. How many times I keep seeing that little thing pop up, or just old shit that was
Yeah,
just the old shit that's been like we've been doing for years and years and years is like just being, you know, basically put on.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild to see. It's validating.
Urban Outfitters. That's what I was thinking.
Urban Outfitters.
Validating.
Yeah.
You know, back in my day, I feel like an old man like looking on it, but I'm like, yeah, this makes total sense because when it was starting to bubble, when you first heard of Z Trip and, you know, Inhumans, all these guys who were doing it, you're like, whoa, this stuff is crazy. It's hard to explain. It was just like it hadn't, you know, it's a style of music and DJing that hadn't been explored. So this is why that was a special era, because all these things were coming together, you know. And I was a local bar DJ. You know, it's funny because my Saturday night gig was DJ. I was lugging 4 crates of records up a staircase to DJ at an Indian restaurant on Saturday nights. Like that was my big gig. You know, it was like $200, and it was like, all right, like I finally got a gig. Like for me, I had been DJing for 6 years, but I was a amateur high school DJ, a college like dorm party DJ, and then kind of after college, you just kind of figure your way around, like who's who, what's what. Like luckily, I linked up with Spider. We both had underground hip hop groups, and we met at a college radio station, KXLU, which is Loyola Marymount. And we ended up there the same night, both promoting our groups, and instantly hit it off. We were like, oh, you like the same things? Like instantly we're like, oh yeah, like you like the same hip hop as me, like we have the same sense of humor. So that was really cool to like find an ally early in the DJ game, you know. And to talk about DJing nowadays as an older DJ, one thing I miss is like linking up with DJs as much as we did back then, because back then is like you link with DJs, trade music, talk about things, you know. It was like very open market, you know. So for me, yeah, it was just basic local stuff. And then I remember hearing about this guy AM and all these parties he was doing, and he was getting $20,000 a gig, you know, and like just being a bar DJ making $200, it didn't even seem real. It's hard to explain. Like I couldn't fathom a DJ making that much money. And I remember,
and it's in your own backyard.
Yeah, exactly. I was not involved in the Hollywood scene. I was just like, I was very anti that. But then as I learned more, I was like, oh, like, you know, this is attainable, you know, if you don't think something is even possible, then you're not even thinking about it. So, yeah, I remember going on his website. He had that one flash page and it had his resume and all the Super Bowl part, Maxim Super Bowl, blah, 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 Jimmy Iovine birthday party, all this stuff. And you're like, again, like mind boggling, you know, you're like, how does this happening? You know, because all I do is this Indian restaurant every Saturday, you know? So the story is, and it's funny enough because there's video of it on YouTube. We actually filmed the day we met AM. We were doing the Magic Conference 2005 and got to meet him DJing the same booth. He came and dropped a set because Nicole Richie was a spokesperson for Bongo Jeans. That was the booth we were in. So it all kind of,
are they even still around, Bongo Jeans?
No, I don't think so.
It's like a Target brand now or something.
Sure. I gotta admit too, I must have watched this YouTube video when I like started DJing like all the time too. Like
nice.
That was like one of the ones that I remember. I couldn't get enough DJ AM videos when
it was remember the flip cameras? We were filming on
right.
the camera, you know, it was like the start of all that too. So, you know, that was a lucky chance meeting to like, you know, there was some excitement behind it because we had heard of the guy and we never met him. And then to meet him and start talking and to realize like musically we're in sync with him. Like he likes the underground hip hop. He's like 3 or 4 years older than us. So he's already developed that palette for all types of music and is playing rock and playing a lot of records that we don't even know, you know? And that was a wake-up call. Like, okay, like it's time to become more well-rounded. It's time to like start to bring in everything in our sets and what we play, you know. So but yeah, from that meeting, then we met Kevin Scott, of course, from DMS, and Kevin was so, you know, welcoming and warm to us and cool to us. And it was just kind of the start of like, all right, this is where we need to be. You know what I mean? We need to like, and Banana Split had started around that time. And, you know, like we met Kevin at LAX, which was like a, you know, the hot new club in Hollywood. And luckily we had an in, you know, if you don't have an into these places, the door might not let you in, you know? So, but luckily, like all
I
my,
stood at that door before I knew Kevin. We were like one of the first people in line. I stood at that door for fucking hours, and
yeah,
finally the door guy was like, you guys haven't complained one bit." He's like, "You're cool, like you can get in." And so that was about the only way I got in. But it was like right before I kind of met a lot of you guys. So
yeah.
I know it was wild.
Yeah. So, you know, it's kind of like that thing, like, all right, this is where we need to be. And then we, you know, we just devoted ourselves to like kind of that scene, you know, and going to Banana Split every Sunday. And Kevin invited me to open for him a couple times, and, you know, kind of like gave me the pointers on, you know, which records are, you know, I would go see him and take notes, you know, like a big record for him early opening was R. Kelly, Home Alone with R. Kelly and Keith Murray, you know, and it was just like this vibey R&B record. And it's like, okay, like I get that, you know, but it was also like there was a lot to learn of being an opener, not playing the hits, not stepping on the headliner's toes, you know, not there was a lot more rules to all that back then, especially in the vinyl days, as opposed to like what it is now. I mean, clearly there's a lot more music and styles and tastes change, you know, but if you stepped on the headliner's toes back then, it was bad news for you, you know, like if they came in and heard you playing the biggest song, like I think Crazy in Love. Well, no, that was like 2003. But I'm trying to think of what like the big songs of that time were. I think Usher, yeah, was like 2005 maybe. But a
Yeah.
lot of those like records were becoming big, and it's like just know to stay away from them. You know what I mean? Like figure out what works. You know, so Kev put me up on a lot of game, and yeah, that was kind of my introduction to getting on Deckstar, you know, as AM, like kind of like taking a liking to me and Spider, and, you know, believing in our ability, and, you know, brought us on board, which was awesome, you know, like wouldn't want to be connected to another DJ in the game at that point, you know?
And just I've always wondered what it'd be like to, you know, a lot of, I guess with the early Deckstar days, a lot of people were wanting to book AM, right? And then to get him, you would have to book a lot of you guys on the crew. Is that
Yeah.
right?
I mean, I kind of like, I wasn't next up in line, you know, like there were other guys on the roster that like I think were more suited for that slot, you know, but definitely there were spots that he was playing. I think it was Fluid in San Francisco was one that they would book Crook and Clan and AM and like all these guys. And it was one of those spots that was out of town. I hadn't done a lot of out of town gigs, but it was on my radar as a place that like the the top dogs would spin at. So I told myself I want to play there, figure out how I can get in there. And linking with Deckstar definitely helped that. You know, it wasn't like okay, you know, like we'll book you because you're on Deckstar, but it just it made whoever was booking there at the time have more faith in me that like, okay, AM co-signs this guy, like we trust that guy, you know. And before that, the first out of town gigs were at Harrah's Casino in Kansas City. That was like
Oh wow.
that was when I quit my day job. Actually, I was running a tape vault, like editing reels and doing stuff for directors and music videos. And yeah, I landed. Like I think Deckstar got me in to that gig, and like one night DJing there paid more than a month of my 9 to 5. So I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna go try this out, try to start the DJing. You know what I mean?
So
Like,
wild.
cool as a job that was. It was a really cool job, and sometimes I like maybe I should have kept my foot in that door, but yeah, and that was my first. It was kind of a good introduction to out of town gigs because it was kind of low pressure in a way because it didn't get too slammed. It was like this big concert kind of hall that like wasn't a club. Like they were trying to make a club. It was a weird fit, but also a good place to get your reps in, you know? And,
Yeah.
you know, I remember Steve Aoki was DJing there and Tina T and Spider and Kevin, like, you know, and we all would trade notes. Oh, what worked for you? Oh, what was the big song?
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, Aoki would ask me for music because he was open format then. I think it was like very electro for him. You know what I mean? He was just getting his foot in as a DJ. So, but that was a good place to like kind of like get my out of town reps in, you know, because it was low pressure. It didn't feel like if it was a slow night, it wasn't because the DJ. It was, you know, maybe the turnout and stuff, you know. But
and the music wise, they're probably just a little bit behind LA, right? So
yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean,
you can work a lot of the newer shit,
yeah,
or like older shit.
I think like Chris Brown Run It was a huge record there, but yeah, and it's Midwest, you know, so they have different tastes and stuff. So that was what was cool about it is as you travel, you realize things are regional. You know, so it set me up like, all right, if I go to Texas, they have a whole different palette than Kansas City, than Chicago, than New York or Miami. So, you know, becoming a traveling DJ helps you become well-rounded, you know, like some of my first gigs in New York, I remember covering for Rockticon once and they wanted a lot of house and I didn't know anything about house. I'll be honest. You know what I mean? Like house was the last thing on my mind and like in my palette. But he sent me a lot of the classics and you know, it's like the World Hold On and the Love Generation and it was
that was so big.
Yeah, you know, like at that time but then as that's when it made me realize I got to go hear some DJs play house music because I have to know what's up in that world, you know? So becoming a traveling DJ was great for my musical, you know, the development of my.
Well, we have a ton of questions for music and that's a good little segue into like I want to dive deep into a lot of the music stuff and prepping for out of state stuff and whatnot. So Fuse,
we got a little segment video. We roll it all the time. Super high quality.
By the way, I love that intro video, man. That was awesome. 10 out of 10, dude. So good.
Well, these segment videos just get better. So,
all right, here we go.
Hey, Drew and Fuse, Kermit the Frog here. When I'm not dealing with my pain in the ass wife, Miss Piggy, I like to talk and sing with my friends. What's your top songs? A new personal favorite of mine is this. It's the Drew and Fuse Show, the Drew and Fuse Show, and they clean up nicely, because usually they look like shit. Yay!
It's your boy Kermit crushing the game.
All right, so one of the things we like to ask everybody when they come on is if you have a favorite remixer or producer.
Wow, favorite remixer producer.
And it could be just in music in general. It doesn't have to be like DJ edits.
Probably DJ Premier, just because I was such a fan of all his production in the 90s and Gangstar and J. Rue and Nas and just KRS, like everything he did, I just blew my mind when I first heard it, you know, but there's so many. I mean,
yeah.
Do you watch his YouTube show? It's his YouTube channel. He has like about the DAT, and he'll like play. It's not his DAT, but it's like the floppy disk or whatever he has that goes in the
Yeah, I've seen a lot of them. Yeah, they're dope for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what number they're up to, but I watched a lot of them for sure.
Yeah.
If you could pick one song, what would your theme song be? Like it follows you everywhere you go.
Any song?
Any song.
Ay, ay, ay. These are tough.
Like you walk into the grocery store, boom.
Prep me on this. I think Roy Ayers, Everybody Loves the Sunshine, because it's just so vibey and peaceful, and like you feel like you're at the beach when that song's on, like
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it. Drew, what would yours be? I've never asked you.
Oh, see, now I'm like him. I wish I would have prepped for this. Oh, fuck, man. I got to think of it. For some reason, you guys ever seen I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker?
Of course.
Where he walks out with the shoes and he has the goldfish. I always just think of some kind of like, funk song, like with a lot of horns, something with a lot of horns.
Yeah.
I'm big into horns. I always wanted I love tracks with horns, and I love horns. I have like a whole subgenre of just horns. So
I was gonna ask if you tag horns on songs and just type in horns and then they're
a ton of that. So I love that. So yeah, I'd have something with that. I gotta think about that one. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know what mine would be either. I feel like baseball players have it the best because they can always change their theme song when they walk up. But like now that it's in the playoffs, I just can't help but think like Bryce Harper always comes out to Moby Flower, and I just think that's sick. It's like
wow,
and it's just dope every time he comes to the plate.
That's cool. Yeah.
Let's see. We always talk about the 5 most played tracks in your Serato. If you want to do that, that's always great. We found some flaws in that though, that Serato tags or Serato, if you run songs through mixed in key, sometimes mixed in key adds plays to your Serato count, and or sometimes editors are adding plays to
we've been doing that. We just add the plays in.
Yeah, and Serato didn't implement the plays till like a few years ago, right? Like it's like
correct.
It's not the history that you
you don't have to. You can just skip through too. Like if you're like, oh, that one's not right. We're just curious. Like we always like talking to people about songs that they're playing in their sets and what's a staple for them, as a DJ.
Yeah.
And or some people just find that they're playing Pitbull hotel room service all the time and their sets that aren't that cool.
I mean, I can kind of go off like recently, like kind of what goes.
Yeah, do that.
I think Pursuit of Happiness, Aoki remix. I mean, I made an edit without the ravey stuff because it's kind of
part?
Without the ravey, like
oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's just like vocals. So that is always a staple. Trying to think. Like
I've been playing that one a lot lately again, I feel like, but like all that 2010 stuff, like
yeah, like that's way back in the mix, and there's a lot of stuff from 2010 that was popular in 2010 that isn't popular now, so
yeah, we were talking about that, like certain stuff that was giant back in the days isn't hidden, and just other stuff that wasn't that big, and I can't even think off the top of my head of what it is, but is like giant now.
Well, Man After Midnight is a good one. Like
the ABBA.
I was not playing that ever in my sets. Like
same. It was corny,
very rare. Yeah. It was just like maybe because had sampled it, but yeah, now it's a staple. Dancing Queen too. Like I don't know, those just weren't on my radar, but bigger than ever. And
right.
I'd say like a Crazy in Love is a staple. It's like always a go-to. I mean, I'll endorse myself, but Conga Shake, like the Coolie Rhythm is always a good, any of the songs in the Coolie Rhythm or remixes, they always set it off. That beat, it's the beat, like you could put a lot of different things over it. The crowd just it's infectious, and I mean, it's still.
So real quick, we just got to mention the Conga Shake is probably one of your biggest and most downloaded edits of all times.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right. And Was that one available on Crooklyn Clan?
Yeah, it
I
was like
believe?
top 5 on Cook
Right.
all time.
Forever.
It was up there.
Yeah.
It was a big. I wish I
Yeah,
got. You
it's
know what? I wish I had done what they did with Be Faithful and like went the route of trying to license it. You know what I mean? Like get it signed off because DJs are playing it at like NBA games and arenas and stuff. It's almost like
Yeah.
a knock jam of sorts. And I'm like, well, if I got I was at a restaurant once in Vegas and Gloria Stefan was there with her family. And I was so tempted to be like, hey, I made an edit of your song, but also like didn't want to say it because it's kind of like, I don't know. If like really
It's
understand.
incriminating at the same time.
Yeah,
Where she
exactly.
could be like, "Oh, you're the guy."
I'll leave that alone, you know. But I was like, all it was, you know, the Cooley rhythm and, you know, conga and the Shake What Your Mama Gave You. You know, you could get those 3 songs licensed, then hey, man, like, you know, like
yeah.
the amount of times that got played and, you know, if it became an official track, I was like, that would have been cool. But none of us were thinking about that stuff back in the day, you know. But
So with
Right.
that track, were you playing that before and you were like, oh, I just want a way to like make it a little bit doper, or were you I feel like in that era we were all just like, how can we play songs more unique to sound fresher in our sets, right? It was like more of a like a little bit of a deeper track where it's like, oh, these other guys aren't playing this, let me figure out a way to flip this.
like the Gloria Stefan.
Yeah, the Gloria Stefan specifically. Like, what made
well,
you come up with that? Is that you were playing it, or it was like just something random?
No, I always love the horns. You know, like you say, you love horns on tracks.
Yeah,
and I always love that intro. But I love like clearly the Latin vibe of conga. But when the drums come in, they're almost more like 80s, and it's not as Latin. You know what I mean? So, you know, they're almost like programmed like a Prince song or something, you know? So the funny story about that is when I made it, I sent it to Kevin. I mean, I told the story before, and Kevin was just like, his response was like, Steve, does the world really need another Cooley Rhythm remix? Because there was a bunch out, you know. I think Sis did the Suavemente one, and you know, there was just like a bunch of versions of it, you know, like
Right.
Yeah.
in the Sky and the Pitbull and the Mr. Vegas, and it was just like there was already enough in that rhythm that you could play it and but I was
What
like,
did you make that on?
I made on Pro Tools. I was
Are
like,
you
I don't
still
know.
using
I don't know.
Pro
It
Tools?
kind of works. Like it fits, you know. I was like, especially when the hype, the Shake What Your Mama Gave You come in, it's like it brings it up even more, you know, like it's kind of like the structure of it was perfect, you know. It was like a breakdown, beat comes in, gets even more, and yeah, I don't know. It worked to me. It was just like a one-off. Usually those are like the best ones where you don't overthink it, put it together, send it out, and you know.
Oh, we had a conga line challenge for the longest, like at the beginning of when we started doing this podcast, and it was record a conga line happening without the conga, and maybe we need to have it with the conga and for Steve's remix
Nice.
moving forward. But I know I played your remix one time at Heat for this was it Mary Kay makeup? It was like a corporate party, and it was all women, and I played it, and there was a conga line around the whole around the room and shit. It was fucking like,
yeah. Sometimes I think I should have made like an 8-minute version. Just, you know, there's some songs you play through the night, and you're just like, I wish this was 10 minutes because the crowd loves it. They don't want it to stop. If it goes that long, they're not going to be mad at you. You know what I mean? It's not like change it up. Like usually it's like that for new big songs, you know, but like I think that's the beauty of that track is that it works for a corporate crowd, it works for a bar crowd, it works, you know, it's a good way to segue to a Latin house set, you know, to like you can really go anywhere with it. And as DJs, we're always looking for tools to get us in another direction or, you know, to keep things moving, you know what I mean?
yeah. No, I agree. No, I love that track, and I use it for a lot of the segues you're talking. So I'm just wondering what the story behind it was. So you talked about prepping, going to other cities. I know you're not traveling like you were back then, but what's like kind of the mentality you wrap your head around trying to, prep for other cities,
I mean, then it was looking at radio charts. It was finding what the top radio stations were in the city and looking at what they were playing, or the mix show DJs. Now it's pretty easy because everyone is giving up everything everywhere. Like the DJs on TikTok, like the top 7 songs in Miami. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Right.
people are throwing this information at you, but back then it was how do you figure out? Or talking to the openers after the gig, trying to, or talking to other DJs, like what works here, what works there. I'm a very community driven DJ. I like to share info. I always trade. I always feel like I'm losing trades with other DJs. Like I'm giving them way more heat than they give me. But I've always been one. I like building with other DJs and learning, about their experiences, what works for them, what their opinions on things. You know what I mean? Like I love your guys' podcasts, all these other podcasts that they just talk DJ shop because, we're lifers in this. We've devoted ourselves into it. Like I'm 20 plus years deep in the game, and we live, we drink. It's a lot of philosophy behind it. There's a lot of every time you DJ and you play a room, like you're basically like you're also being a psychologist and trying to figure out what works for everyone.
Right.
Drew, like the bungalow is such a mixed crowd, like you get everything. You got to touch on everything. You can't not, like you will. You can never make everyone happy, but if you can make, 90% of the room happy, then you've done your job. So.
That's what I love about it is such a mixed bag, and the decor leans so much into it that it's some of it's expected to be able to go left or right, than just straight down the middle.
There's a spot here in Cincy that I used to play. I don't play there anymore, but Drew's played it a couple times. It's called Igby's, and Simo actually plays there still all the time. And it was kind of the same way as you guys play the bungalow out there. It's more like vibey, cool, mixed with like party as well, where it's like you got to do what they're asking of you, but at the same time you got to do a little bit of what the people want as well to keep them kind of around. It's a tough thing to balance.
Yeah, it's a balancing act. and to younger DJs, like that's a big challenge of I think it should be a priority for DJs, unless you're very honed in on one style, but we in the open format world, like have learned through time, like balance is everything, man. Like get your crates right for every genre of music, every decade. Like you never know when you're going to need something, like especially in the corporate world, like that's such a mixed bag, and you got to hit them with everything. And that's what I wish I knew sooner, being the younger hip hop head. Like actually, like it's good to know everything. And here's a shameless plug, but it's why I love DMS, because they have everything. Like I love Drew's edits. Like it'll be the strokes, or it's just such a variety, and that's so important. You know what I mean? Like there are some sites I go on that's just new music, and it's like there's more to DJing than just like or remixes. Like it's important, but I feel like crowds nowadays, they don't care about remixes as much as the mid 2000s or the 2010s. Like some people just the regular version, and if you play a remix that they're not feeling, they feel like you're ruining the song for them, so that's even more balance and psychology, like figuring out or not.
I actually have a question. We were talking about mashups earlier. How do you feel? I mean, the TikTok, it's huge, right? It is what it is. DJ showcasing what it is. But how do you feel it's playing out? Like you're saying with remixes, do the mashups, are they actually working, or is it just a way to showcase on TikTok?
Good question. Me and Spider talk about that all the time, because I'll be like, have you heard that? And then he's like, does that really work? You know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah, it's important to, like, just because it's got 1 million views on TikTok doesn't mean everyone's gonna like it in the club, you know. So
Right.
I think there's some crossover. I mean, I like it to like get intel like on, oh, I like that beat, but the vocal on it I don't care for, you know. But I'll go
Right.
download that instrumental and then maybe work on something of my own, you know what I mean? So, but
Right.
it's hard to say, you know. Like I'm trying to think, like a good case study would be Makeba or Makiba, you know.
Oh, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really big on social media, and I've tried to run it a lot and to a mixed reaction, you know, to where it seems
Same.
like some
Feel the
people
same
don't
way.
care about it, but I've played it a few times. Like I play it at Bungalow Huntington Beach, which is a lot more house driven than Long Beach, and I've gotten great reaction to it there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it really is situational, and yeah, just because it's on social media doesn't mean it's gonna work in the
Right.
club. So you know,
But I'm
it's
with you with certain blends. If the beat's dope, and it's usually when they don't have a clue what the beat is, right? Because then they don't have a reference point to you're mashing it up or ruining it. It's just like a better version of the original.
yeah.
Right. So one of the other things that we wanted to talk music wise was just some of the mixtapes that you've done. I think one of the popular ones was a Nate Dogg mixtape.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I did that in 2008. It was actually before he passed. I just thought about it for a second. I was like, this dude has so much music and so much of it's popular. So much was on the radio, you know, like if you were in LA and you were listening to Power 106 or The Beat, you know, and it was like Melody and the
Yeah.
Hollow Boys. It's just like it was just like Nate Dogg hits all the time, you know. And I was like, you know, I
Yeah.
should do like a best of, which is basically what it was, you know, and you know, trim the fat, you know, like if he was just on the hook of a song, just use that, you know what I mean? Like I'm very much a student of like the beat junkies and like melody and like clean mixing and you know like it's almost like a house way of mixing hip hop, like holding a tight mix. And you know, whereas the New York approach was more slamming and like best parts of the record, you know. So I kind of took some of that East Coast mentality to the Nate Dogg mixtape. Like there's some mixing, but it was more like here's the meat and potatoes. Like this is like
Yeah.
the best of the Nate Dogg. Like you know, some full songs, but mostly like little hooks or features and stuff. And yeah, it got a really good response. I think it was because I made it before he passed, you know, and then the passing kind of elevates people's thirst for it, you know. But
Right.
I've always, you know, like DJ Rob One, who was an underground hip hop DJ in the 90s and 2000s in LA. Like I loved his mixtapes. I used to go down Melrose and there were so many cool hip hop stories that sold mixtapes and mix CDs. So I love mixtapes and I still go on Mixcloud a lot to listen to mixes and um
I feel like it's almost like a lost art though with like new DJs. Like they're not like even like the house DJs. Like it used to be like even Diplo had like the BBC mix and that you know he had some big like his big BBC mixes that were big, but now I feel like I don't know, you just don't see as much anymore. And maybe I'm wrong.
it's no, you're right. It's a labor of love and it's time consuming. And you know,
Yeah.
it's like it's the energy and effort you put into it to the reward you get back from it, you know, and it's like you could spend 6 months on a mix, put it out, and it just disappears into the oblivion of the internet. You know, it's very tough. You know, I think that's why
Right.
people work on remixes and original tracks more because there you're planting a seed that other DJs will play and get the word out. You know, I've had a lot of people come up to me and ask me what a remix was and give me their email. And, you know, like I have a funny story. I was doing the floor room in West Hollywood and it's very like tough door, celebrity driven, you know, and like LeBron was there and I played an edit, a DJ Swift edit, who's like, I'm on his Patreon. He makes really dope breakdown edits and remixes and stuff. And his manager, this guy Maverick Carter, came up to me. He's like, it was like a Jay-Z blend I was playing because I was like, oh, they love Jay-Z. You know, like I'm gonna play to their Jay-Z fandom.
Yeah.
And, I played the edit and he came up to me. He's like, what edit is that? I was like, oh, it's like a DJ edit. He's like, all right, thanks, man. I'll find it on YouTube or something like that. I'll get it. And I stopped him. I was like, you're not going to find this out there. Like, because I got it from his Patreon. Like, it's not floating in those where you could just find it.
Right.
I was like, let me get your email. I sent it to you. He gave me his email. I sent it to him. Never heard back, but it was just a funny story because, like, to us, those edits that are like not accessible are like the most important ones. You know what I mean? The ones that that not everyone has. You know, secret weapons, whatever you want to call them. You know, so.
Right.
That's why they hire you again, because you sound fresh. They like it. It's like, oh, it's that thing that you can do that they can't do.
Editing is one of the most important things, I think, to like making a DJ stand out. And like, not even in terms of like, you don't have to make like custom like edits, bootlegs, like with vocals, but like if you can just edit songs that come in the way you want and that are different from other people, like I think it makes you stand out so much more as a DJ.
And to be honest, I love stems, man. Like, you know, like we were saying, I got the new M2. Like I spent a lot on it, but I wanted the most powerful machine because I didn't want any lag or any, you know, and I've found like I play Ain't No Fun a lot at Long Beach. It's an anthem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it is Long Beach, you know? So
it's Long Beach.
But now I like the whole time through the song, I'm stemming like vocals out and just the bass, you know what I mean? Because people's songs that people sing along to now, like if you got them with you, you can play along and you're doing like almost a live re-editing there, you know, like taking this out, taking that out. So that's been really fun, man. But I agree. That's why Serato was the game changer. And that era, early mid 2000s, was so crazy because it was the start of that. It was like, oh, like we can edit, change, and create anything like that, you know. So.
And like you mentioned earlier, you know, you said you're willing to share stuff with other DJs and give back. And I like doing that too. But what I will say for me is like, I don't care if you're a great editor or, you know, you got one edit that I've liked. I just want you to feel, I want to feel like if I'm sharing something with somebody that they are also giving back to the community as a whole and not just being a taker and just taking shit. Like that's, I think, very important is like, if you're a DJ, like at least be trying to like make stuff and give back, or like, you know, not just be like, oh, I'm just taking everything I can get from everybody.
I agree with that. I feel
that's life.
I feel the same way, but also like it's kind of like there's no way to track. Like you know who makes edits and you know who doesn't. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's hard to like, you know. But I've always felt that way, like inside about certain DJs who don't make edits, who don't put out mixtapes, who do, you know what I mean? To me, like I'm just like I keep a mental note. I'm like, all right, like. You're not giving back, but you know, honestly, there's more to gain from giving back than to not. So if DJs choose that and they don't want to contribute to the greater good of the, you know, edit culture and all that, like so be it. But there's going to be way more reward in sharing your edits, you know, like to go back to your question with the producer or remixer, like I've always been a fan of Eccentric, DJ Eccentric. Even when he was doing a lot of the twerk stuff, like I could tell this guy was super gifted early on because like when a DJ makes an edit and I have trouble figuring out how they did it or like, you know, like their sequencing and stuff, I'm like, all right, that's talent, you know. And he's, you know, I subscribe to his Patreon and I love his R&B vibe and just like I play a lot of his stuff and always have, even like a lot of the trap stuff was dope back in the day and the twerk stuff. And, but you see, he landed a official Beyonce remix. And it's like, you got to put yourself out there for good things to come back to you, you know? So other DJs should take that. However, you know,
I love that you're supporting so many people on Patreon. Is there any like ones that without giving away all your stuff that you're cool to put people on too?
Yeah, I'm on the main guys, you know. I'm on Nick Bike, Swift, you know, Eccentric.
Yeah.
One that I like is Mighty Moves. Have you used any of his
Mighty
stuff?
Moves is dope. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
on his email list, but yeah, I like his edits a lot. I just got his Halloween pack actually. He makes
Got some good stuff.
yeah, for sure. I don't know, my boy Pixter in Arizona, I've always liked his edits and his taste. So I subscribe to his, but I'm only on a handful. I'm not on too many.
Well, it becomes overwhelming just going through the record pools and everybody's stuff. And I mean, then at that same point, you're just like looking for something fresh because I know I'll like re-edit it anyways,
Yeah,
so that
so
it fits my
here's what
style.
I finally realized out of all these years of being able to do this. Now, when I open my computer, you have different screens on your MacBook. When you do the 4 fingers up, it'll show you so now I have one screen and every tab open is all of my subscription sites. It's all my DJ pools. It's all my video DJ pools. So I'm not mixing in my emails or my YouTube or anything else with
Right.
this screen. So now and I go one by one. I'm like, all right, I'm on this site. What can I download? The next site, and literally there's 10 of them, and it's so much to keep track of. And like you said, even add the Patreon in there, add this and that. It's just it's more than ever, and it's so easy to miss quality stuff because
Well, I actually love that tip because I'm struggling with that right now is just staying focused. So I just like that focus tip. That's a nice little thing I ever heard.
I use Safari, and then I click the save open tabs, or I have the option of every time I open Safari, all these tabs will open. So now I have my one browser window with all my sites to download from. But I put that on a separate screen so it doesn't interfere with any business or
yeah. I'm gonna steal that. I've always known that feature to be on the Mac, but I just never taken advantage.
Yeah,
of
I've never taken advantage, but it makes sense, because once you start mixing in your email and a news site or YouTube, it's so easy to get sidetracked. So it's just keep it to the DJ stuff,
And it's good you mentioned, you use all these different services for your music, and Drew and I always preach, and even Warren, when we talk about stuff DMS isn't the you only need one record pool. DMS is great and it's a great tool, but we all preach you need to have as many different options as you can to get music from if you really want to be a good DJ, because there's so many outlets and so much, so many talented editors and just so much music out there that it's still the most important part of what we do. And if you're not willing to comb through the stuff and find stuff, then it's probably why you aren't getting the gigs and or the stuff you want as well.
Yeah, it's a balance. A lot of times we're going to come back to balance, and we're not even talking about Bandcamp or SoundCloud. I'm talking about 10 tabs of just the pools that I subscribe to, and then there's all the outside digging, it's so wild. There's so many ways to get music and find music, and then you can go on the playlist sites and look at people's playlists and find tracks there, and it's crazy, man.
One thing we wanted to ask about before we stop talking about music is the hip hop game. Drew, you want to show it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the questions, hip hop trivia. So that's something I've been doing with my cousin Sean. He's the host, and we did a lot of live games in Los Angeles at different bars. We were doing at Blind Barber and Delicious Pizza and all these places. We were doing them live where we would, have the crowd play on their phones and interact. It was really fun. Yeah, it was just it's like bar trivia, but all hip hop based, So we had been doing that for a couple of years, but then COVID came and shut it all down, of course, But within that, the option to do a card game came up, and jumped on it. And it's and simultaneously during COVID, we switched to doing live shows on Instagram, and we had amazing guests. We had Questlove, we had Russell Peters, so many hip hop legends, Dante Ross. Like it just goes on and on. And yeah, that game is for people to play at home and gives you a sense of what you would expect if you came out to a live concert. And Sean has been taking it on the road. He went to Philadelphia. He's done shows with Skills. He was just in New York. So, yeah, I mean, it's on Amazon, I think. You know,
Yeah, I bought it. I bought it on Amazon.
Hip-hop stores. It's not expensive at all. It's a little fun. You know, you got nothing to do, drink with some friends, break that out, test the hip hop. You know.
Yeah, I
Awesome.
definitely would recommend this. It's a lot of fun.
Perfect for the 50th anniversary too. You know, just worked out.
Even if you just want to, I flip through it just to be like, oh, I didn't know that fact. You know, like even if I'm not playing with somebody, I just flip through it and be like, oh shit, that
I
was
mean,
interesting.
You know, we're all music nerds. You know, that's just specified on hip hop. But I feel like any DJ could nerd out on some music trivia for sure. If you can't, then like, why are you a DJ? You know?
Right. So we got another segment video I'm gonna play. This is our production segment video. We want to talk to you a little bit about production. I know we touched on it a little bit, but and video DJing. So I'm gonna roll this and then we'll get started.
Hey, what is up, Drew and Fuse? It is Mark McGrath from the band Sugar Ray, off the charts, but always in our heart. Hey, Drew and Fuse, when I'm not busy being the handsome, dashing fella that I am, at least I had a few good years in the 90s, I work on music, like writing hit #1 songs like Fly and Every Morning. Maybe someday you'll have a hit. Let's talk production. Let's talk inspiration. Actually, you know what? I don't even like Drew and Fuse. Who are they?
That was so cool of him to just send you that video and not read it off of a prompt.
He totally winged it, and I actually forgot that he did that one. So I was expecting something else, but yeah, it was awesome.
So, what DAW you mentioned you were using Pro Tools? Do you still use Pro Tools or
No,
are you using something else? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Did you go to school for that? Or Pro Tools was just the OG? When I was in college, Pro Tools was like they were pushing us to it, but I don't know. I didn't spend enough time with it.
Yeah, I have friends who produce. Like 2 of my best friends are professional producers. So one of them back then was heavy into Pro Tools. So I would sit in and watch him work and do sessions and kind of got an idea of it, just kind of like sitting and bugging him, asking him things about it. So that was kind of how I learned that. And then Ableton is very self-explanatory and, you know, it's super deep when you get into it, but it's still, you can get enough across just by kind of the basics of Ableton.
I agree.
You know, the warping, you know, there's like the main things you need to know with warping and setting markers and like kind of all that stuff. And once you know them, you're like good to flow. My challenge has always been mixing. Like even Conga Shake, I didn't really mix at all. Like I don't know if I put a limiter or anything on it. Like I just sent it out as is, you know. But one reason I really like Eccentric is because his stuff sounds so good, you know. I'm like, so, but what's cool about his Patreon is if you do the higher tier, he lets you download his Ableton sessions and then open them up. So I saw he was using a lot of Sound Toys mixing plugins. So I bought those instantly. I'm like, all right, I need those. You know what I mean? Like if you want, you find editors, remixers that you like their sound and then, you know, kind of learn.
Well, that was going to be the next question. What plugins are you? What are you?
Yeah, you know, like since I have the new, I had a lot of cracked ones. You know, I got the waves and all that. But since I got the new computer, like I lost a lot of them. So I'm not on too many right now. But I like the Sound Toy stuff is really good. Omnisphere I don't have, but I want. It seems to be like everyone's #1 synth plugin. And there was a new one, I forgot what it's called, but it has AI. It just came out. It has this AI that you can drop a sample into and it'll recreate the sound. which is
Oh my
insane.
gosh.
No matter
Yeah.
what it is, even an analog, even a horn, anything. But you could take I saw it, it's like $200, dude. Like the stuff that's about to come out is insane, and that to me opens up a whole new level of remixing and editing, and like because we're all trying to we're all like, I love like kind of recreating stuff, but giving it a newer twist, and having those tools gives that, like, look at so the guy U-Turn from Oliver,
Yeah.
the group, he produced Big Energy. I won't call it the real version, which is the Tom Tom Club flip. But
Yeah.
all those sounds he created, that's not samples, he like remade it, but he made it bump much harder. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
it's hard to play like Mariah and then go into Big Energy because the sonics are so different. You got the 90s beat and then the 2020 beat. So
Right.
Right. What was the name of that program?
it's called Synplant 2. And it's crazy, like when you drop the sample in, it's got like an AI model that like it looks like a brain, or like it's called Synplant because it actually looks like a plant, and it shows you like how it's figuring out to recreate, like, this bass or this wave, or you know what I mean? It like literally shows you like how the AI reads the sound and recreates it. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on, but
Yeah, it's amazing. It just scares me at the same time. I'm worried. I don't know why I am. I worry about it.
yeah.
Arnold's gonna come protect you. Don't worry, Drew.
I do think it's dope though, and I want to get more into it. So that's why I asked, because I'm gonna download that and check it out.
Yeah, you should.
So one of the things too we wanted to talk about is Drew does video DJing. I do some video DJing. I'm very basic at it. I'm not at the level of either of you. But you were on a legendary crew of video DJs called Screenworks, and I believe, and I might miss one or two, that it was you, Jordan Laws, JE, Second Nature,
Yeah,
and am I missing one?
that was the core, and then like Caustic worked with us, and
Right.
Deception, but no, those four are the core.
You guys had some like it was basically like a DJ crew, but like the who's who of like video DJing, I felt like too.
Yeah, well, I mean, like Second Nature is like the Godfather. He's like the OG, like him, and like I remember when I was doing Jet in Vegas at the
Mhm.
Mirage, like that was my first big Vegas residency. But they would bring in Rooney G, and he was a video DJ, and he would bring his whole like VJ rig. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he was dope, and they would set screens up. But Second Nature to me is like the Godfather, and then Jay is just so talented, so creative. Same with Jordan. I was kind of like the last guy, I think, involved, and they taught me a lot about video editing, video DJing. Like I was the one who like showed the most interest and really like loved it because I'm an MTV kid. You know what I mean? Like anyone from our generation is gonna love visuals. And
But you just did a big video DJ gig too, right?
I did a gig in Seattle recently at the Mopop, the Museum of Pop Music, which was sick. I mean, it made me feel, because Screenworks was around 2012, 13.
Yeah.
So, maybe a decade ago. But doing that gig made me feel like everything I did back then prepared me for something like this, because I had all these edits that I didn't really have a place to play them, but they all worked so well for this gig, like,
That's what I.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
But that gig, like Sir Mix-a-Lot performed. So like I DJ'd for like an hour and a half. He performed, then I DJ'd after. But the crowd didn't really get turned up till he got on. So for the first hour and a half, I played a lot of movie edits and a lot of the customs that Screenworks had made. And, because you're not concerned about the dance floor, it's more people are schmoozing, drinking, eating, watching it as they browse the museum. So those kind of edits were perfect for that. And then after Sir Mix-a-Lot, I got into a little more of the party stuff, kind of like the straightforward videos, because there is an element of not wanting to take away from the dance party of people like watching the screen, and
Right.
that's what always scared nightclubs off of video DJing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
But the way you guys did it is the way I loved it. It was clips. Like you said, you were an MTV kid, grew up. Well, my parents owned a video store growing up, so
Oh, wow.
like just watching movies and like all that stuff. I like all the media, so I like the second era, or the second what I'm trying to say, simulation of the TV with just whatever's happening. I felt like the way you guys were doing it, there was intricate parts, but it wasn't just like taking over. You could enjoy it as like something unique, but then the music did its own stuff.
yeah, man. I mean, the screen at this venue was insane. I actually posted some clips on Instagram, but I got to post more of the little clips. Luckily, my wife was there filming. I thought about it. I was like, I should have hired a videographer for this gig and made a nice little reel out of it, because I might never play there again. It was such a one-of-a-kind venue, but the screen was ginormous, and
Yeah.
it was so cool to play that, and it vindicated all that work, because video DJing is time consuming, editing, doing all this stuff. So, you put a lot of work in, and you want to reap the benefits of all the work. And, all the Screenworks guys, Shecky Green was helping us out, kind of manage us. And with time, we all kind of went our own ways, because the market, I had done some cool stuff back in the day. I did a gig for Vivo at South by Southwest. It was a Watch the Throne, like Kanye and Jay-Z performed. It was when that album came out. So that was like 10 years ago, but it was this big abandoned nuclear plant, and they had me like propped up, and all my videos were playing on these big walls and stuff. So I definitely did a lot of cool video gigs, and I would love to do more. I mean, I'm back into collecting and editing, but I've always approached video DJing like regular DJing, where I like to play remixes, and I make a lot of edits of remixes to have stuff that I can play that maybe other DJs won't have, so.
Right.
Yeah.
But there was, too, for guys that don't know, like all those guys were legends in their own way. J.E. produced all of Nelly's Country Grammar album, and some of the early Murphy Lee stuff.
Yeah, all Saint Lunatics, like a lot of that stuff, and a lot of other stuff. I mean, that Nelly album is like 10 times platinum, like insane.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And Jay is starting to do a lot of vinyl gigs again. You know what I mean? Like he's just such a well-rounded. He loves music. Like when you love music, you're gonna play with it, mess with it, and any format you can. Whether it's vinyl, it's video, you know what I mean? Like, so he's just a music junkie. But yeah, man.
Well, and Jordan Laws was like all over, I feel like, doing video stuff too. What's
Jordan
he do
was
these
like the
days?
master of like the viral stuff. Like he made viral stuff that early on the YouTube days like popped off, I think Jordan's in New York. I know he was living in Colombia for a minute, but I talk to Laws every now and then. But
I was in Paris, maybe like this is the first time I think I went, and we always followed each other, and he was like commenting on something I was doing out there. I think he maybe lived out there for a minute too.
Yeah, he was traveling. Yeah, he was floating around for sure. He's a cultured guy. He likes to see the world and take in everything. So.
And do you think there still is a scene for video DJing? I mean, obviously these one-offs, but more in the corporate side or
I think
bar
the corporate
gigs
private event, it makes more sense, like the events that have more budget that want to add that element, but in terms of clubs and bars, like, I think it is what it is and it's not changing. But also, like we were saying earlier, Twitch, I saw a lot of video DJs pop up out of nowhere, DJs I knew as DJs that were never spinning videos, and all of a sudden on Twitch, they're video DJs. So, it's like whatever medium calls for it, it'll be there. But I remember we were on Ustream in like 2008, 2009.
Remember Ustream?
We were doing Sure Shot parties, me, Spider, and our boy Mr. Best, like we did a Sure Shot early on, and we had LMFAO perform, and we paid them with a bottle.
That's hilarious.
Like, hey, you guys want to come to our party? We got a bottle for you. Yeah, they showed up. I think they did Miami Bitch. I don't even think like Shots was out yet, but so funny, man. Like
Yeah, that's crazy.
that's the game.
That is wild.
We knew them from all the banana split parties early on, so they were homies,
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, you were in that scene when they were kind of crafting their sound, and that early like 2008 era, they were just remixing before really making their own shit. I mean, Miami Bitch was the one standout, but like I felt like all of us DJs were playing a lot of their remixes.
The Fergie one was dope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it would go over crowd's head now, but at the time, it just like Fu was like ahead of the curve, like he was highly influenced by Banana Split and hearing what AM was playing and all those like indie remixes and got it. He understood it, but also like put his pop aesthetic on it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So, yeah.
I have the Cobra Snake photo book and like all those old photos from that era that he just put out. Like I don't know, maybe it was a year or two ago, but it's got some like funny photos from the Banana Split days and like other parties in LA around that time.
Well, it's funny because like we would go to Banana Split and they would be there, and like everyone like in that era, it was all like Crooks and Castles and Diamond and all like the streetwear shit. And then you see these guys wearing like leopard pants, and you're like, "Who the fuck are these guys?" Seriously, like we would just be like, "Yo, what's up with these guys over here?" But little did we know, this is like Fu's master plan where he's like forming this group, and he's got his nephew or his cousin or something, and it's like he had the vision early, man, like way early. So I love it. Think outside of the box.
Right.
Yeah, I wish I had the balls to wear some leopard pants, but I don't. We want to ask you a crazy DJ story, something like one of the segments we do all the time, and think about it. And we're gonna play this little video here.
You're crazy, man. You're crazy. I like you, but you're crazy.
Oh, it's just bad. It's just so bad. It's just so bad.
Just in time for Halloween.
But if it was Drew in a pirate's outfit, it might have been good. So.
Yeah, we need to get the AI face on there where it's just like his face doing it.
All right.
It's all about who does what.
Sold. Well, just if you don't mind telling us a funny or crazy DJ story, it's always interesting to look back on. We have an interesting career, right? Where you're around a lot of drunk people or or whatever, Yeah. So
trying to think. I mean,
anything good or bad. It could be a bad, like a night.
It could be both
bad.
if you can decide.
Yeah.
It's a tough one. Somebody asked me the other night what a crazy one was, and I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't, Spider's the king of the crazy stories, but like honestly, like I've never had like as in terms of like the crowd and like drunk people, I feel like I've never had anything that insane happen to me. Once I did a wedding in Cabo for a linebacker who was on the Eagles, and I just remember because this must have been like 2009 or something. I just remember it was pretty like people were getting wasted. I remember Donovan McNabb was there. He's a quarterback, And I remember him just like sitting on the table I was DJing on, and I would play something old school. He'd be like, "What you know about this?" Like really, like almost like, bro, like, all right, come on, like, what you know about it? I remember there was another like, and these are like big football players. One guy like, "Hey man, can you play some Drake?" And me kind of like having no idea who Drake was. And literally, I think Drake only had a couple mixtapes out at that point, but that was like one of the first times I ever heard the name Drake. And like little did we know that Drake would like run music for the next like 15 years. But yeah, it was just like that was a real like funny random wedding I did because I was like, oh man, like you guys are cool, but you're also like kind of annoying me. Like,
I was thinking the Robert Downey Jr. one you had.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, I've told that before, so I didn't want to tell it, but
Oh,
that was
all right.
crazy. No, just because, like, I mean, the story behind it is that I was asked to do a gig. It was actually a gig that my friend Mr. Best was supposed to do, but he couldn't. So he was previously booked. So he asked me to do it, and they said it's going to be at, you know, like, you're going to meet the client. So I had to go downtown. It's a celebrity, you know what I mean? That's all you know. It could be anyone in the world. And then I go to this big warehouse. It's a production warehouse where, you know, they have all the lighting and chairs and all this shit. And I walk in and I see this guy walking forward, and he's like sipping some coffee, like talking to the women who are throwing the event. And like they're talking about the taste of the coffee, which coffees they should have. And as he gets closer, I'm like, who the hell is that? And closer, it ends up being Robert Downey Jr., and it's his 50th birthday. And the first thing he says to me is, he's like, because he had read my bio. I had just redone my bio and rewritten it and put the whole Dexstar thing in there. He's like, so you knew Adam? And I was like, yeah, AM's a good friend, you know, amazing. And he was like, he was such a good guy. Like that was like the icebreaker of our conversation.
Wow.
And then I went and sat down with him. We talked about the night. And since it was his 50th birthday, he wanted to do 5 decades of music. He wanted to, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s into the 2000s. So, you know, we went over music. And the funny part is he asked me, you know who Dr. Octagon is? And I was so caught off guard. It was like the most random, surreal moment, because I'm like, Robert Downey Jr. is asking me about Dr. Octagon right now. And I was like, of course. He was like, talking about like 90s music. He's like, I love this.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, you know, we talked about so many different bands and like Susie and the Banshees and all this stuff. And he didn't want it too poppy, but he wanted it like 90s reflective, you know,
Yeah.
Cocteau Twins and all this stuff. And it was such a cool gig. I mean, it was very, I wouldn't say it was stressful, but I didn't know what to expect, you know, but
Right.
the gig ended up being solid, and actually Duran Duran and Steely Dan performed, like, and there was like, he didn't announce it to the guests. So a lot of them had left, you know, it was like a pure surprise. Like, oh, by the way, behind this wall is Steely Dan, Duran Duran. So Steely Dan went on second. By the time it was right before they had done Coachella. And by the time they went on, there was 30 people there.
Wow.
Crazy, yeah. And I was just
Imagine
like
kicking yourself for that. Like,
wow. And I was just like, this is insane. Like, I'm watching Steely Dan with like 30 people right now. Like, that was definitely one of the coolest gigs I've ever done.
I think for me, the hardest part would just be not just be composed and be in the element, right? Because you're hired, and honestly, you're just as much a professional as, you know, for your craft, for what you do, just as much a professional as them, right? So you should be getting the respect, but at the same time, you're like geeking out, like, holy fuck, this is weird, you know? So keeping the composure would be the hard part for me.
You know, like, and thankfully, you know, thanks to Mr. Best for not being available. But also, I had been to a lot of, he does a lot of corporate gigs for a lot of big clients.
Yeah, shout out Mr. Best.
And has always been low key about it, you know, but he would bring me to a lot of them, like these really nice beach houses in Malibu. And I would watch how he would conduct himself, like what he would play. So he really put me up on a lot of the corporate game and how to conduct yourself, you know, and it's like, it's very easy to get excited that, you know, Gwen Stefani is standing right next to you and want to geek out, but it's like, you know, the balance and keeping your composure is really important. And that gig was cool because you never know, like, is there going to be a dance floor? There wasn't really a dance floor. So I kind of was just kind of on the side providing music. People were eating and having dinner in front of me. So it wasn't as much pressure. So it wasn't like, okay, now DJ and keep the party cracking for 3 hours. Like, luckily the bands were playing and there was a lot of different stuff happening. But, you know,
right.
I always psych myself out for every gig I do. I'm always like, you know, if you don't if you don't get nervous for your gigs and you don't care about them, even my residencies that I've done a million times, it's like, oh, what's going to happen this weekend? Like,
Yeah.
what will I do? So, it's a balance of like not psyching yourself out, but still
Well,
staying composed,
I've learned to like channel that energy into really like over prepping, right? So that over prepping does pay off down the road. Like we've talked about throughout this whole show is you take that energy, you over prep, and then it might not pay off till later if you didn't end up using it, but it's still using that energy for, something eventually that's going to come up.
I mean, I'm sure you've had corporate gigs where you prepped for a packed dance floor, and by some chance, like things dragged out, and by the time you got on, like half the crowd had left. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
and it's just like,
Right.
and then you're imagining like, oh, I'm rocking this party, but then when you get there, it's like half the crowd, and managing that is way different than managing a full raged party. So there's always variables.
I was just gonna say, like, I prepped all this year for like Reds games that I DJ'd with all these like slam edits and stuff that had like a lot of energy. And then like a lot of times during the game, like we might have been losing or something that I didn't get to play these edits. But like this past week when I did the fitness stuff, like it was the same kind of thing. So I got to use a lot of those, and I didn't have as much work to do when I prepped for that because I already had all these edits that were like super high energy and like right into the drop and all that.
Nice.
Yeah, I was gonna add. I was doing some of these celebrity parties too, but they were, lower end celebrity stuff, so it wasn't as shocking. It was like producers and stuff that were behind the scenes. But I did this one 55 year birthday party, and I did all the videos for it, and it was supposed to be this dance party with all the music videos, and I over prepped the fuck out of like getting all these videos. Like he wanted them to be like, Route 66. And so I had like all these like car driving videos and all this shit. Well, they put the bar right outside the door. So everybody was outside the door drinking and like hanging out and in this little photo booth. And then they had me off to the side, so once I got him, but everyone was out there for an hour and a half, and I'm like trying to play bangers and get them in, but you're just burning yourself. So yeah, you never know,
You just reminded me of a snafu actually. So Scratch Bastard had linked me up with Red Bull, and they wanted me to do video DJing for a motocross event that they had, like in Redlands or something. And it was a lot of pre-production, a lot of editing, all motorcycle content, like a lot of like even like sending clips we had made to the Red Bull people. Do you like this? What do you want changed? Like so much prep work, right? I think it was a 2 or 3 day event. Get there the first day, set up. It's Red Bull. It's not like a sanctioned event. It's kind of just marketing for them. Oh, the winds are too strong. Events canceled.
Oh no.
It's too dangerous for them to do their jumps.
Oh,
I had spent months editing these things, getting it so right. Like, am I going to do this right? Hey, man, the check still comes the same, but that's a perfect example where you never know how a gig will play out or what, you always envision something, but then, I mean, that's a little extreme because it's like extreme sports and stuff, but a lot goes into it, but
yeah, that's a good story. But yes, that sucks.
Yeah, I made all those edits, forgot to play them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I did one for a sunglass company one time, and so it was months of just editing, finding songs that had to do with sunshine or just. I mean, they were so detailed on all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
I get there, and it was like right when Happy had just barely come out, the Pharrell Happy. And I'm playing, I'm doing everything, and they're like, none of this is working. Play Happy. And I'm going, it was at Tao in Vegas. And I'm going, what the fuck, Just talk about throwing everything that we prepped out the window. And it's like, let's play this little cheesy Minions song. But
We got one last segment video to roll, and it's the last segment. We call it the sauce, and it's just if you had any advice to younger DJs or anything, you would do over or do differently. We'll just talk about that. And we'll roll this video.
The name is Bootsy, baby. And this shout out goes out to Drew and Fuse, all the way from Cincinnati to the LBC Bobble. Yeah, I was told you guys are quite the chefs, and you got a delicious sauce that you cook up. Ooh, and it drips that swagoo and breaks down the recipe. Yeah, and you giving up the pee, cause it's funky. As in good, that is, finger funkin' good. On the one by the power of the one. Yeah, without that, there is none. So get yours and be in tune with the one that loves you. Get it, baby.
Love it. I love it. That was awesome.
Bootsy crushing the game. Yeah, just any advice, anything that you're all about. Just good, bad.
Yeah.
Tell the kids.
I would say, I mean, a theme that's going through this pod is balance. I would say find balance in everything you do. Like have your crates balanced, have your personality balanced. It took me a while to learn that I can't take things personal in the DJ world. Things will upset you. People will, you will feel like you're not getting a return on your value, but don't make any irrational decisions based on that. Just put your head down, keep working, keep it moving. Like nothing is granted, or nothing is deserved in life, or especially in DJing. Like you might think because you do something you deserve something, but that's just not the case. So you got to work hard and earn everything. And I mean, one thing, it's like a catch-22, because one thing I've learned is like you want in this game, but a lot of times the loyalty isn't returned. So there's something to find. There is a balance of like distributing your loyalty and expecting loyalty back. Because I found a lot that, a lot of clubs and bars and places are not as loyal to you as the DJ they hire as you are to them as their employer, So unfortunately, there's a lot of DJs in the world, and a lot of us can be expendable, So you might think that your loyalty will make you not expendable, but you can have a residency or a gig and do everything right, and they still might decide to go with someone else. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I mean in terms of like stay balanced and do what's best for you always, like make the decisions that serve you the most, not that serve other people, or, like it's this game is tricky, you know what I mean? There's a lot of politics to it, and you gotta play your cards right, and I've been in the game for 20 years, and I've made some wrong decisions, I made some right decisions, but stay loyal to yourself, I guess, is the best advice,
Yeah, I love that sauce. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Was it like ragu or
That was one of the better ones.
honey barbecue, some ranch?
It's a high-end brand for sure.
High-end brand. Well,
it was one of the good ones. I like that a lot. It felt very genuine. And I think it's true.
I've had some weird fallouts with DJ homies over gigs and residencies in different cities, and it's like I've never been one to play the politics and like try to force myself in situations. I take what comes to me, and I'm thankful that a lot of dope gigs and work has come my way, but there's different approaches. You can be that guy who goes out and tries to get everything they want and by force, you know what I mean? But I've always just kind of played my position and tried not to ruffle too many feathers and, just played it cool and let the work speak for itself,
Amen. I agree.
Right.
Yeah.
If there's anything you're wanting to promote or just your social media, just tell everybody that listens where they can find you.
DJ Steve1der on Instagram. I'm probably most active on there. Steve1der on X, Twitter, but that place is toxic. So it's more of like weird opinions on there, but most of my, I got some cool stuff on TikTok too. I think it's either Steve1der or DJ Steve1der. I don't know. There's some people, I've never been able to sync all my social medias with the same name. So,
and what about your edits or remixes?
Where are they? I mean, there's some on DMS. I don't have a Patreon right now. I've still been making stuff, but I've been doing more video edits, and I've always wondered, is there a market, like a Patreon market for video edits?
I think so.
You think so?
Yeah.
Too, if there's any edits that you want up, like anything new or whatever, this episode will go up Wednesday. So if you want like five or six edits of yours to go up, just send them to us. We'll put them up on DMS.
Oh, yeah. So, Mixcloud. If they go on my Instagram, I have one of those link trees that has all my socials. So just look up DJ Steve1der. It should all be there.
Yeah. I love it. And you got a good website too. I like that.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I want to say rest in peace to my boy DJ Nels. He was a big supporter of the questions. He was on Be Real TV. He just such a good dude, man. Like really like opened his heart to me. Like he was at my birthday 2 years ago. He worked for this company called Hood Hat. He bought me a bunch of hats. He made me a custom hat that said Nate in 08, DJ Steve1der on it. Like just such a good dude, man. Like he got sick. I think he had got cancer about a year ago, and it just happened so fast, man. And he passed away last week. And I just want to say that DJs should look out for each other. Everyone's going through different stuff, and we'll definitely throw some benefits and look out for his family. But it's like keep it community based. We all. It's not the easiest gig. It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of pressure, and a lot of DJs don't talk about it. Because there's a hidden like there's a you want to be flashy, you want to show everyone the best of your DJ life, but we all deal with stresses behind it all, and it's important to look out for other DJs and make sure everyone's doing well and stuff. So
yeah. Well said.
And thank you guys for having me on the show, man. Like I said,
no, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Thank you so much, man. This was a great episode. I loved it. Yeah. A lot of good stuff.
Shouts to Kevin and Warren. I know those guys since back in the day. We used to do the pool parties at Kevin's house, man. Shouts to DMS, man. Like edits have saved me countless times, and one of my favorite sites, easily.
Awesome. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us here today, and it was awesome to catch up and chat, and that's gonna wrap up the show for today. So if you guys aren't following Steve yet, make sure you follow Steve. Hopefully we might be able to get a couple edits out of him to put on DMS. So download the edits, find his other edits. There's some iconic ones out there that you guys need to have. So thank you so much, and until next time, we'll see you guys later.
Yeah, dude. Thank you. Peace.
Thanks, man.